Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Saturday, December 21st. Ian Cameron, and he's back on the show with us from the Windy City, Chicago. Alex B. Smith back on the show, enjoying a week back home, and we'll be through staying in Chicago through the Christmas holiday season. Alex, good to have you back. How's the first few days been back home?
Oh, pretty good. Up and down as usual in Chicago, but weather's been really nice, actually. A little bit of snow, but nothing too crazy with the cold. And like I said, obviously nice to get some good food in my stomach, hang out with mom for a bit. And did catch some of the games the night before last. Last night, not too many games. I kind of watched mostly as the highlights and stuff. But, obviously we get into that crunch time, right, where before for years we used to say it was Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. That would be the cutoff point of where these teams are starting to kind of rise and fall. Now here we are heading into Christmas. And it seems like, things are shaking out a little bit more. We're starting to see, the teams that we know we can count on, and even, not just from a betting standpoint, but just count on to get consistent wins, starting to rise up, and then the teams that are starting to just fall to the bottom where they're just having issues galore. And obviously, I think the biggest story of the week has to still be the saga that's going on in Manhattan, right? I mean, with the New York Rangers, it just seems to be getting worse and worse up there.
Well, until last night when they got a victory over the Dallas Stars, which was, I guess, a step in the right direction. But that's just one win, and they've got to show that they can kind of sustain it, and kind of follow it up. But there's still, I think, a lot of issues between them and the Buffalo Sabres. You talk about two teams that just cannot get out of your own way right now. And that's a great segue into the recap of last night was a great betting night for me personally. It can't ask for much better. It was winning night with the sides and totals. Not one. Actually, I had two bets. I recommended a bunch of goal props on the show, as I always do, but I actually only ended up betting a couple. And because by far they were my two favorite goal props, and they were both Toronto Maple Leaf props. Nick Robertson and what I used as my bargain bin special, Max Domi, last night. And both of them hit in that game. So it was great to see that. And that's where we'll start. 6-3 Toronto against Buffalo. As the Sabres' woes continue, a very, very disappointing, I guess you could say, run it's been for the Sabres, without a doubt. It's now reached 12 straight losses for them. And you don't give yourself a chance to win these games when you're down 2-0 in the first 6 minutes, or when you're giving up the first goal in the first 20 seconds of the game, like Buffalo did against Montreal. I mean, it was just absolutely, you just bury yourself in your confidence, which is already shaky and fragile to begin with. You just really don't give yourself a chance to even settle into the game. And that's now happened twice in a row for Buffalo. They get down early. And just to show you how bad it's going, they look like they had tied it 1-1 after the opening goal of the game last night from McMahon. And then all of a sudden, the goal gets taken off the board due to a goalie interference, and then the next thing you know, it's 2-0 Leafs. That being said, I will give the Sabres a decent amount of credit for battling back the way they did, and they did show some fight last night in that game, battling back from that deficit when it was all said and done. And it could have been 5-4, but then another goal was disallowed for Buffalo later in that game, and it would have made it a one-goal game. Great challenge by Craig Berube and the Leafs coaching staff. But, I did see some fight back, which was, I guess, some little positives you can take from Buffalo last night in that third period. But at the end of the day, it's another loss, the 12th straight, and Toronto with a nice 6-3 win. One of the hottest lines going, too, is that Robertson, Domi, McMahon line. They were absolutely spectacular last night once again. Of course, we cash another bargain bin special with Max Domi plus 500. Great to be able to hit that. And like I said, there's lots to like right now with what we are seeing from that third line. They're playing like a top line right now, quite honestly, for Toronto. Well, we took a shot with St. Louis last night just because they were catching Florida off a long road trip, a couple of wins to end that road trip, and we got the split. We did take them first period and full game. We at least got the first period money line. They led 1-0, but It was the only goal they scored. Florida ends up winning in overtime by a score of 2-1. Pretty solid performance still, even in a tough spot for the Florida Panthers to be able to get that win 2-1. Just an outstanding goal, too, by the captain on the power play, Alexander Barkov, to get that 2-1 win for the Panthers. Best bet winner for me with Washington. They get the job done 3-1 against Carolina. This is something to pay attention to. Carolina's road play lately, not been good, not been up to snuff. 0-5 now for the Hurricanes in their last 5 road games. So they've struggled away from home. And the struggles continued away from home last night with the 3-1 win for Washington. Nice to cash a best bet. Nice price, too, on that. Washington plus 140, as a home underdog last night. So it was good to get that. Montreal with a 4-3 win against Detroit. We did grab a little Habs money line here. I had the over. I did have the draw, too, and boy, we almost got it. But it just fell short. 4-3 against Detroit. Still, nothing but 1-goal games historically between these two teams lately. And it continued last night with the 4-3 victory that the Montreal Canadiens had in that game over the Detroit Red Wings. And they're back in action tonight. Once again, those same two teams head-to-head, this time in Montreal. Utah, 2-1 against Minnesota. I guess in retrospect, I sprinkled a little on the team total over 2.5 for the Utah Hockey Club. Kind of wish I had taken money line instead because they win the game, but they only score 2 goals. But, Minnesota a little bit here slumping. 3 of the last 4 games they've lost, Edmonton, Vegas, Florida, and then Utah. So Minnesota going through their first little extended speed bump, I guess you could say, of the season going into that following that game against Utah. The New York Rangers get a much-needed win against Dallas 3-1 last night. They needed it badly. That was a system play, too, with the Rangers off a shutout loss, but we only get the first period over. As the full game does stay under. There was only 1 goal after the first period, and it was scored by Chris Kreider into the empty net to put that game away late in the third. But the headline event coming out of that game is obviously the hit by Matt Rempe on Miro Heiskanen. And look, the kid's got a lot of moxie and charisma, and you see in the interviews, but he's got to start using his damn head. And you cannot be committing those kind of hits, and you can't be looking, you can't just drill someone right in between the numbers, right into the glass, and leave the ice, leave your feet, to make the hit as well. It's got all the check marks of suspension coming, and he's already been scheduled for a in-person hearing with the NHL Department of Player Safety regarding that.
Wow. Yeah.
See what the status is moving forward of Miro Heiskanen, of course. Obviously, was not a good, and you're talking about a guy that means a lot, obviously, to the Dallas Stars. We'll have to see, but the good news is, I think they're expecting, I think they're expecting him to be okay. It didn't feel like it was going to be anything significant as far as an injury is concerned, but that was not a good hit, and there's no question about it. Matt Rempe's going to serve some kind of suspension for it. And then the final game of the night was not much to say about it. Colorado won 4-2 against Anaheim. They got the job done. Pretty impressive still, considering it was a back-to-back spot for the Avs after beating the Sharks the previous night. There was a good fight in that game, though. Ross Johnston and Jacob Middleton's brother called up to the Avs, and he got in a fight last night, Keaton Middleton. So that was a pretty good tilt there in that Colorado-Anaheim game. Alex, your thoughts on Friday's action?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't get to see much live last night, but I did obviously, of course, go on Twitter and see the hit with Rempe and Heiskanen. Like you said, it was an in-person hearing, so we're probably talking about at least 5 games he's going to miss. And, you wonder, is it going to be more? Are they going to try to throw the hammer down on him specifically because he's been kind of the example the last year and a half, right? And when we think about fighting in this league and we talk about the potential future of carrying fighting into this league, we were looking at Matt Rempe as possibly being one of those guys like Olivier and some of the others that still drop the gloves in this league. And maybe the league will take upon themselves where, like I said, they always spin that wheel. We don't know how many games they're going to get. This can only be 2 games. This could be 8 or 10 games. And you wonder if they may be a little bit more strict on him because of the fact that he is a fighter, he is a physical player, and maybe this will be the league's way of trying to curb a lot of other things physically by giving him a rougher suspension. So that's something to keep an eye on. And like I said, with the Rangers, yeah, it's a great win. You needed that to try to just, like I said, get momentum going in a positive direction. But now having this, it's just one more black eye, right? It's just one more negative thing to be said in the media, one more crazy New York Post headline to have about this team right now, and that's not good. You need another big win to just get all of the bad stuff out of the way and continue to keep moving forward with this team. Because, like I said, just right now they're in that sink or swim spot right now, and that's something that I'm sure none of us believed they would be in right now heading into the Christmas break.
No doubt. This is a pivotal stretch of games coming up through the Christmas holiday season for the New York Rangers. It's a nice win last night. That's not a great loss, obviously, for Dallas either. But I think it's a situation where, as it looks like, I'm just SMU, Penn State. SMU had like a touchdown, and the guy dropped it. So there we go. That game's off and running, by the way, in college football. But I think when you look at this situation here with the Rangers, you got to string wins together. It's that simple. You got to string wins together. You've got to be able to, get some confidence going because, winning one game against Dallas is one thing, but maybe following it up and being able to win more than that and putting some wins together, that is going to be important for them, no question. All right, let's get into Saturday's card. It's a big one, and we are going to begin with a game that's going to start at the top of the hour. We've got the LA Kings and the Nashville Predators. Minus 110 both sides. The total here 5.5, pretty much across the board in this one. As far as this game goes, I'm not involved in it at all, other than I like Alex Turcotte a little bit as far as a goal prop with value, considering he's up there on the top line for the LA Kings right now. I don't mind looking in that direction as far as a player prop in this game. I'll sprinkle on that. That's really about it for me. I think there's a tough spot here for LA. There's been a very long road trip, and then they play in Washington tomorrow. It's the front end of a back-to-back. As this road trip goes on, lesson when you've been on the road this long, especially for a West Coast team traveling east, and these haven't been easy games for LA either. They lose to New Jersey. The Islander game was a 3-1 win. They did pound the Rangers, but, the Rangers, as we know, have been struggling. They lose in overtime to Pittsburgh. The game was tied against Philly before they broke out for 4 goals in the third period to beat the Flyers. So a lot of these games have been close, competitive. Nashville, what did I say against Pittsburgh the other day? I can't trust this team to win 2 in a row. And sure enough, they can't hold a lead in that game. They lose 5-4 in overtime to the Penguins. We'll see if they bounce back here. They've kind of been in a win-loss pattern. I don't want to back anything to do with Nashville, but I don't want to back LA, really. I'm not rushing to back them in this spot for an early start game on the road here in Nashville. So kind of has me off the game. Could you maybe talk me into a draw? Yeah, but that's about it. What I really only like is that Turcotte goal prop. I do think it's worth a look for the Kings. What do you think here in this one, Alex? LA, Nashville.
So I'm going against the grain with what I normally do in an NHL contest, right? Especially with the day game, with teams that we kind of like that have pace. We usually like early starts, lots of goals. But I'm going to tap into and I know he's in the chat right now, Aaron, something that he usually plays a lot of. I have first period draw plus 165, and I have first period correct score 0-0 at plus 350. If you take a look, thanks to the charts provided by Chris Otto, top 2 teams in first period draws, Nashville and LA. The 2 worst teams with the first period overs, Nashville and LA. So these have been teams that have historically been low scoring throughout the season and have found their ways to be tied after 20 minutes of play. So like I said, this is kind of an early start, long road trip for LA. This could be a sleepy first 20 minutes. Maybe we don't see anything, and that's what I'm hoping for. So give me first period draw and correct score 0-0 after 20 minutes of the first period with Kings and Preds.
Wow, I like that approach, actually. I could see this being kind of a lower scoring, kind of a dull game, early start. And Nashville was not in a dull game, obviously, with Pittsburgh. That ended up turning into a wild affair, 5-4. But I think when you look at that particular game, they're probably not going to be thrilled with giving up 5 goals, tighten things up. And even though LA's off the 7-3 win, that game kind of got into an up and down affair. I think more so because that's the way it is with the Flyers right now. They've got real goaltending issues with Fedotov stinks, Kolosov stinks, and to be honest, Ersson's been terrible for the Flyers since he's been back from injury, and the numbers bear it out. So I think that kind of is what got LA into more of a offensive type of game there against the Flyers. So yeah, I think the under probably could come through here. It looks like Riddick and Saros are expected to be the goalies. We're just waiting on confirmation, which we'll get very soon because these teams are going to take the ice for the pregame skate probably in the next 10 minutes. All right, San Jose, Edmonton. This is also a matinee affair in Alberta. We've got Edmonton minus 450, home favorite, 6.5 the total. In fact, both Alberta teams have a afternoon game here on this Saturday. What do you do here? I mean, obviously Edmonton should win. Maybe you look at a team total, but that's 4.5. It's not exactly like you're getting a great deal of value. It's like, but do you take San Jose? Do we trust San Jose right now with a 5-14 road record? They come into this game, although I will say in the last shorter amount of sample size, they're 3-3 on the road, and they did beat St. Louis, they did beat Washington, and they did beat Seattle. The losses were all the pretty good teams, Carolina, Florida, and Tampa Bay. So can San Jose compete? We'll see. Calvin Pickard is going to get the start here for the Edmonton Oilers. I'm not really that surprised. This is probably the predictable spot for Chris Knobloch to give Skinner a little bit of a rest here in this game. Today playing a team like San Jose. For the San Jose Sharks, we'll see again if they go back to Alexander Georgiev. My thoughts on him. As I've said it over and over again, I won't go into it too much, but they do expect that Georgiev will be in net, although it hasn't been confirmed just yet. I could make a case for over 6.5, but a lot of the San Jose overs I've been betting have been them at home. Them on the road, it's not been nearly as strong as they've been at home as far as overs are concerned. I lean that way. San Jose overall is a 6-4 to the over in their last 10 games. The one thing about Edmonton during this 5-1 streak is that they are scoring in the majority of these games that they're winning. They have scored at least 3 goals, the Edmonton Oilers, in it looks like 5 of their last 6 or 6 of their last 7 games. This team has scored at least 3 goals. So if they get to 3, and if San Jose, can somehow chip in, maybe it can go over 6.5. Maybe I sprinkle on that, but even that I'm not overly. It's not a strong bet for me or a strong opinion when it comes to this game. Jonathan's probably on to but it might be the best look. It's Georgiev in net. Take the first period for the other team. That has been unbelievable this year. Look at those numbers. I couldn't believe it when I first saw that. That when Georgiev is in net, the opposing team is 17-1-3 in the first period this season, facing a team with Georgiev in net. And those numbers are between Colorado and San Jose combined. Any game with Georgiev in net, and that team with Georgiev in net is 1-17-3 in the first period this season. Conceptually, I totally agree. My one concern is is this a flat spot maybe for the Oilers? Because you're coming off a barn burner with the Bruins, and you're coming off the Florida game as well, and Vegas, not to mention that before that. So that's my only concern, but certainly the numbers back it up that take an Edmonton first period with how bad teams have been with Georgiev and net in the opening 20 minutes. Alex, what do you think here? Sharks, Oilers?
Yeah, this will mostly be a pass for me. If I was going to look at anything maybe early, I was thinking Edmonton team total over 1.5 in the first period. I'm seeing plus 168 at FanDuel. So that might be something you could take a sprinkle with if you think they're going to jump out early. But like I said, if you feel like it could be a little bit flat, then you just completely pass this game. This could be one of those games with Edmonton wins 3-2. And nothing happens until like late in the second period. So, but there's a better spots on the card tonight.
All right, next up, we've got Chicago and Calgary. This is the last of the afternoon games. We've got Calgary minus 170. Oh, it's climbing right now. I see there's money coming in on Calgary right now, up to minus 180 now in some spots for this game. Total sitting at 5.5, shaded to the under in this game. You look at this matchup, and Calgary has, for the full season, a very good home record. Suddenly, though, the last few games, we're starting to see them lose some home games. With the Ottawa loss, albeit in overtime, and the Boston loss where they were up 3-1 and they lose 4-3 in overtime. Suddenly, this team is just 1-4 in their last 5 home games. So even though that 11-4-3 still looks pretty good, 7 losses altogether at home, 4 of those have been in the last 5 home games for this Calgary team. And I'm not shocked by that. It's a little surprising to me how the team was so bad on the road, but winning games at home. To me, they're a bottom, below average NHL team. And I think now we're starting to see that trickle into the way they're playing at home here in this game. I'm going to take Chicago one more time. And look, I really hated the spot for Chicago the other night against it because I was on Seattle. I really, really liked Seattle in that spot, starting a road trip off a couple of losses. And the way they responded in Carolina when they started their last road trip after a couple of losses, where they went to Carolina and they beat Carolina. Seattle did 4-2. I thought they could do the same with Chicago, but they couldn't. Again, offense, it was hard to generate, hard to finish in that game for the Seattle Kraken. Chicago played a solid game start to finish pretty much and capitalized more on their chances against the Kraken there in that game and got some good goaltending, obviously. There's some momentum starting to build here for Chicago with 3 straight wins. Now, they've all been at home. They've got to show they can do this and go on the road and play this way. They did beat the Rangers on the road. They lost their other 2 road games since Anders Sorensen's been behind the bench to the Devils and the Islanders. But you're going to tell me I can get this kind of a great price here with Chicago and a Calgary team that's starting to come back down to earth right now. I don't mind taking it. That is for sure. So Chicago for me, plus 140. That's probably it. I mean, I've been looking at Chicago as a team. It hasn't been firing on all cylinders like I thought since the coaching change, where I thought they'd really be more up-tempo and they'd be in a lot more high-scoring games. Really hasn't been that way. Now, I will say this about the Seattle game. Probably could have and should have been more than the 4 goals scored total in that game. If you look at the expected goals numbers, and I'm not a big advanced metrics guy, as you know, but the expected goals numbers were off the charts in that game. Seattle should add closer to 3 goals. I saw Chicago should add closer to 4.5, 5 goals in that game against Seattle. So if you buy into that, maybe we can get this game over the total. I lean to the 5.5. You look at Calgary, the last 7 games, they've gone 5-2 to the over. They're 7-3 to the over in their last 10 games, and certainly don't trust what I'm seeing from them defensively. I would be going against some strong series history to the under, 3 straight unders head to head with these 2 teams. But I do feel 5.5 is worthy of a small look to the over. And like I said, I'll grab Chicago at this price. I'm cool doing that. I think Calgary overpriced once again. What do you think here, Alex? Blackhawks, Flames.
Yeah, I actually wish I had waited. I can cash it out, thankfully being here in Chicago. But I'm seeing now plus 150 at FanDuel with the Hawks. So I will be on the Hawks first period money line and full game money line here. I think this is a good spot. I think this is going to be a big test for the Hawks. Like you said, they've been winning games, but at home. We know they play well at 1901 West Madison. Can they take that energy away from the city? That's what needs to happen right now. And a Calgary team that we know how shaky they were on the road. They needed all their wins at home, and like you said, they've lost 4 of their last 5. Chicago's won 5 of the last 7 meetings against the Flames as well. I think this is a great spot. And yeah, we might see Peter Mrazek return here as well. Like I said, Kamessa was sent down. Mrazek was the backup in the game against Seattle the other night. So, he's still kind of working out things. Of course, it's touch and go because he has a groin issue. So, obviously, if we see him play,
the only fly in the ointment for me with this bet on Chicago, I'm worried about what we get from Mrazek.
What today. You get from him coming back. And then that's the thing. He's going to be touch and go. We know that if there's any back-to-back spots, he's probably going to get, the weaker of the teams. As of right now, it's Soderblom as a 1A and Mrazek as a 1B option. That's the way we have to kind of read things. So even with that being said, obviously we like Mrazek as a 1B option because he's still a fairly good goalie when he's healthy and ready. So if he's ready to go, then this should definitely be an easy win for the Hawks. But I think they'll be able to find also like Ryan Donato anytime goal. It's bargain bin priced. It's plus 310 to plus 330. But it's not my bargain bin choice. I also like Bedard to get 2 or more points. That's at 4-1. At FanDuel. So those are a couple of player props I like in this game as well as first period and full game money line.
Yeah, no doubt. I to tell you what, I actually have to rock with Ilya Mikheyev. I can't believe I'm saying that, but he's suddenly picked things up here these last few games for Chicago.
This is the power of Sorensen, right? Sorensen has awakened a guy that we thought could had some offensive potential, but he was kind of in limbo, being moved around a little too much with Richardson. Now with Sorensen, he's got his kind of spot. He's feeling himself as the top 6 forward right now.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm definitely interested in looking toward Mikheyev, even Donato playing up there with Bedard on the top line. I do think that might be worth a look here as well in this one. All right, we move to the night session of our Saturday slate. We've got Detroit and Montreal. And I agree with Huberdeau. Huberdeau is a good look, in my opinion. We've got Detroit minus 115 road favorites. The total 6 here, pretty much in this game with the Red Wings and the Habs. I was on Montreal last night. I was on the draw last night. I was on the over last night. I'm going back to all three. Well, I'm going back to the draw again and the over again for sure. And I'm going to go over by Fecta because Montreal is starting to turn into a nice little over first period team all of a sudden of late. I believe it's now 9-2 to the over in their last 11 first periods for the Montreal Canadiens. Easy first period over last night. What was it, 2-2? With the Detroit-Montreal game after the opening period last night. Not to mention, we have goalies that are suspect on both sides. Caden Primo for Montreal has been a disaster this year for the Montreal Canadiens. 4.69 goals against average, .836 save percentage, 3, 4, 5, 6 goal allowances litter his game log this year, and that's certainly not what you want to see. Alex Lyon should be in net for Detroit after we got obviously last night. It was who was it last night? I'm trying to remember now. I'm blanking on it. Who was in net for Detroit? But it should be Lyon tonight for the Detroit Red Wings here in this game. So it's definitely back to the first period, full game over tonight. Over by Fecta here in this game. And yeah, Talbot of course was in last night for the Detroit Red Wings. But yeah, with Lyon tonight. Lyon, of course, he's been up and down. He was gave up 4 goals in the victory. They did beat Philadelphia 6-4, but he still gave up 4 goals in that game. So, yeah, back to the over, back to the draw. And to be honest with you, I'm not stepping in front of Montreal right now. In these short turnaround spots, back-to-back, home and home, sometimes you like to bet the team that lost the first game. Montreal is playing some, I think, really solid hockey of late. I like the way their power play is absolutely sizzling right now. And I mentioned it yesterday. Take a look toward Lyon and Hudson again with their power play point props. And sure enough, Lyon scores on the power play, assisted by Hudson. We have seen a lot of that lately for the Montreal Canadiens. So, like I said, over, first period, full game, and draw I like. And I might even get back to the well with Montreal here. The only concern with that is Primo, and that's probably going to keep me off Montreal. I don't know if I can take him with Caden Primo in net, honestly. What do you think here, Alex? Detroit, Montreal.
Yeah, well, I was right there with Montreal and the draw last night. We did get there with the Habs, but I'll be going back to the well at least with the draw, and I'm going to tell you on that over by fact. I might even go over by trifecta because I see plus 162 for both teams to score in the first. I think that's pretty solid. So over trifecta, along with the draw, and like I said, I think we could probably wait in this game. If we get 1-1 and maybe Detroit gets a power play early in the late in the first period, early in the second, then I'll jump on Habs and try and get a little bit of a plus price. So this will be a kind of a fun game to maybe live bet as well. So definitely will have the over trifecta and have the draw in pocket already as well. Plus 320 was the price I got at BetMGM.
And we almost got it last night, and that game last night broke a streak of 4 straight games that had gone to overtime or a shootout between these two teams. But it's still been a ridiculously strong series history over the last 10 games or so for these teams to go to overtime or a shootout, go past regulation. So it would not shock me to see that once again here tonight.
And here, if you want to parlay specifically Line goal with Hudson assist, I see plus 374 at FanDuel.
Wow, that's that is definitely worth a sprinkle. No doubt about that. Because part of the reasoning why I suggested, Line Hudson power play point last night, a red hot power play, and a penalty kill for Detroit that hasn't been good. And voila, we saw it come to fruition last night. All right, and Lucas Raymond for Detroit. I mean, if you're going to bet someone to score for Detroit right now, Lucas Raymond, man, he has been the catalyst for them offensively of late for sure. All right, next up we've got, and that's good by Landon. Good mention there. Good info. Joe Veleno has a track record against Montreal. I remember because I think I was on some of those games involving Joe Veleno scoring against this Montreal Canadiens team. All right, next up we've got Columbus and Philadelphia. Flyers minus 145 home favorites in this game. 6.5 being the total. Pretty much across. It was 6, but I think the 6s have disappeared. And I don't know if my bet made a difference, but one of my bets was over. So I was one of those people that did take the over when it was 6. It has gone up to 6. And I still lean that way. Here's what's been startling to me. Philly's goaltending, we know Fedotov and Kolosov haven't been good. But we know Ersson, before he got injured, was playing solid, at least. Capable goaltending from him. He's really struggled since returning from this injury of his. And the numbers back it up. I've seen that since he returned from injury, he's playing to a -8 goals saved above average since his return. And it's not the same Sam Ersson since he's been back from this injury. And he's in net tonight, and it's I've got to kind of treat him like Fedotov and Kolosov until I see him get his game back. And I think he's capable of it, but it's not where it needs to be right now for the Philadelphia Flyers. And so that's concerning right now. They definitely need a win here. They've had obviously a little bit of a rough week here with the 3 straight losses at Minnesota, at Detroit, at LA. They've been blasted defensively, and the goaltending, of course, continues to be a concern. 17 goals allowed in the last 3 games. Columbus now, the question with Columbus, though, is can they turn the way they play at home into the way they play on the road? I mean, a great win for them the other night against New Jersey, 4-2 at home, although a lot of that was the wizardry and just masterful goaltending of Merzlikins. It was one of the best games I've ever seen him play in net. Can he deliver that again, this time on the road? Can the team deliver that here? Because Columbus, night and day, home versus road. A winning record at 9-7, actually, at Nationwide Arena at home, but just 4-13 on the road. We'll see how this one plays out. That's why I veer more toward, I lean Jackets, but I lean more toward the team total, which is a nice 2.5, -140. I like that. And I do like the full game over 6 here, -122. I have to take Philly overs until they get some goaltending or show me they're capable of getting some goaltending. And right now they're not from anybody. And that includes Ersson, who hasn't been the same since he's been back from injury for the Philadelphia Flyers. You know what? I was just thinking before I mentioned that I'm on the full game over in this game. Let me just double check, but I'm pretty sure that Columbus is one of those teams that lately has been pretty good first period over. Let me just see what the numbers are. But yeah, well, actually, they've cooled off a little bit of late, so I'll probably lay off that.
Yeah,
I'll lay off
flat.
that. I'll lay off that. I'll just keep it to a full game at over 6 with that total here in Jackets Flyers. Alex, what do you think here? Columbus, Philly.
Like I said, I think this is a good spot for Columbus. And they said you can't trust any of Philly's goaltending, so this is where BetMGM comes into play. I'm going to go with that parlay: Blue Jackets to win at over 5.5 plus 240. Like I said, we obviously see goals galore when these two teams meet up. Even with Merzlikins coming off of, like I said, one of his best performances in a long time, if not one of his career, can he run that back? We know he's had consistency issues his whole career, and with that adding in with how we can't trust Philly defensively, expecting goals galore. But like I said, I may even take a shot laying a little bit 140. That would be a smaller play for me, but that over 2.5, that's a decent look as well. So over 2.5. And then we'll just tie that, like I said, parlay Jackets to win with over 5.5 plus 240 here. Those would be my 2 plays.
All right, good stuff. As far as props go for this game, I know Jonathan mentioned something about Noah Cates has done significant damage in his career against Merzlikins in particular, and we expect certainly Elvis Merzlikins to be the goaltender here in net for the Jackets tonight. So that's the case. There's a guy that's really done damage against him. As far as Columbus is concerned, Werenski, man, he's been a dynamo from the blue line lately, certainly from a point standpoint, but don't sleep on his goal scoring. He's got 3 in the last 7 games. And of course, we're talking about a defenseman here, not a forward, but a look maybe toward Werenski, maybe to even find the back of the net here, given his, a bit, not only shooting the puck quite a bit, but now starting to find the back of the net as well for Columbus. Voronkov, has been pretty solid as well for this team. Provorov scored, earlier this week. Does he want to maybe find the back of the net against his old team? That'll be something to pay attention to and witness for sure if he can do that. All right, next up, we've got Buffalo and Boston. We've got the Bruins -170 home favorites. The total sitting at 6 across the board in this game. The Buffalo Sabres, man, just a horror show right now. 12 straight losses. Leaf fans invade and pack the building last night, the KeyBank Center. Can't say I'm shocked by that. And certainly when you look at this matchup here against Boston, not going to be easy. But they do. And by the way, some Sabre fans, I assume it was Sabre fan, maybe it was Leafs fans in the building, but someone brought some inflatable palm trees into the building last night. And I guess that was mocking Kevin Adams for his comments about palm trees and taxes. Because he's getting just roasted for those comments he made that were just not the smartest thing to say there when he made those remarks. And yeah, there were inflatable palm trees in the house at the KeyBank Center last night during that Leafs and Sabres game. So here's the thing for Buffalo, and because I kind of feel this is, and Jimmy Murphy is all over this on Twitter X, who of course knows this Bruins team well. He's already said to me that he thinks this is a dangerous spot for Boston. Coming off this very, very long road trip, which did end well for them. It did. It started off poorly, but they got ripped by Winnipeg. We remember, blown out. They lost to Seattle, but they turned it around. They beat Vancouver. They beat Calgary. And then, of course, against Edmonton, they lost, but they got a point out of that game, which I'm sure they'll take. But they're coming back home off that long road trip. And, Buffalo, I'll say this about them. They stink right now. They're terrible. They are especially defensively awful right now. They're giving up goals in bunches. They give up another 6 spot last night, and I think it's wearing on their goaltending. Luukkonen and Levi have certainly had their share of struggles, and it hasn't been helped by the team defense in front of them. But I think when you look at Buffalo last night, what I did like was the fact that the Buffalo Sabres didn't quit. There was fight. They were down 5-1. They got it to 5-3, and they almost got it to 5-4, but the goal was disallowed on a nice challenge by the Leafs, or else it was about to be a 1-goal game. So, I look at this situation here where Buffalo at least showed me some fight back, a chance maybe to certainly, come back and give themselves a chance in that game. I don't want to say I'm going to bet Buffalo, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if this is the night they snap the losing streak. It's a tough spot for Boston. It's a long-ass road trip that they're coming back from. The problem is, usually in these spots, I want to fade Boston in the first period. But how can you take Buffalo in the first period with what we've seen the last 2 games in the first period where they're giving up a goal in like the first 2 minutes? So I think if you're going to take a shot with Buffalo, just do it on the full game, plus 150. I probably will put a couple bucks on it. Nothing super strong. You can't. It's a 12-game losing streak for this team. It's not like you can go to the window with confidence, but I just feel at this price and with Boston in this dubious long travel spot returning home, putting a couple bucks on Buffalo plus 150 is not the worst thing to do in this spot. I do like over by Fecta, though. Boston's on this huge over first period run that I think is something along the lines of 9-2 or 10-2 in their last 11 or 12 games. And Buffalo's been going over the total every game because they can't keep the puck out. So first period, full game over by Fecta, I do like here. Alex, what do you think here? Sabres, Bruins.
Yeah, I think I have that as 10-2 to the first period over with Boston. I am on that. I laid $1.26 at FanDuel. There's also $1.30 available at Circa. I forget. I can bet that now. So anything at $1.35 or cheaper, bet now. If it's higher than that, I would say wait, and you'd be able to grab something better in game. That's the only thing I'm going to bet here. Like I said, this could be the night that Buffalo breaks the streak. I would like plus 170, right? If it was plus 170, we'd all be flocking to it. I think. But plus 150, it seems like it's a plus value. But I'd rather not. I'd rather not jump on this because if I jump on this now, then Boston jumps out to a 3-0 lead in the first. I'm just going to be pissed off. So just sticking with the first period over.
Yeah, we need to be merry and bright at this time of year, around Christmas time. You're right.
Yeah.
Maybe betting the Buffalo Sabres is not the best pathway to being a jolly, merry fellow at this time of year. That's true. All right, next up, we've got the Islanders and the Leafs. We've got Toronto minus 160, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. Back-to-back for Toronto after beating the aforementioned Buffalo Sabres last night. Great story, by the way, with Matt Murray, who's battled his tail off to get back to the NHL through surgeries and injuries and all kinds of setbacks. And really, we hadn't seen him even have a chance to start a game for the Toronto Maple Leafs in quite some time. And finally, he gets that win last night in his return to the NHL. Tough spot, though, for Toronto. I'm not interested in them tonight at minus 160. Question is, do we trust the Islanders enough? This is obviously a team that's played some losing hockey of late. They've lost 3 of their last 4 games. They are just 4-6 in their last 10 overall. And you start to look at, some of the wins. Buffalo, Chicago, They did beat Ottawa, but Ottawa was kind of still struggling before they got red hot. They did beat Carolina. That was the one quality win at home. Let's see what they can do on the road here, where the road has not been kind to the Islanders, 6-12. And we are talking one of the best home teams in the NHL this year, the Toronto Maple Leafs at 14-4. Joel Woll will get the start in net for the Leafs tonight, obviously on the back-to-back after they gave Murray the opportunity last night. Sorokin confirmed in net for the New York Islanders. And like I said, they are starting to get healthier. Their blue line looks like it's as healthy as they've been in a long time. What's not healthy is Sorokin, or not. He is healthy physically, but I'm in terms of performance, not so healthy. He's dropped 3 of his last 4 starts, .865 save percentage during that time. And he's given up 4 goals in each of his last 3 starts, 4 to Carolina, 5 to Chicago, and then 4, I should say, to Chicago, and then 4 to Chicago before that. So he gave up 4 goals in both games against Chicago, and of course the 4 goals against Carolina in the most recent loss. So his form hasn't been great. So I feel like it's not a good spot at all for the Leafs. But I have zero faith in the Islanders to maybe take advantage of this. So the draw might be worth a look here. I could see it. One thing about Islanders versus Leafs, 2 of the last 3 meetings have gone past regulation, and 3 of the last 6. It's not a bad track record to maybe sprinkle on a little draw here in this game. And that's what I like more than anything here when it comes to the Islanders and the Leafs. What do you think here in this one, Alex? Islanders, Leafs.
There's a reason we call these teams the Islanders and the Maple Draws. So the draw is almost automatic with these 2 clubs. But like you mentioned, I would be really leery at looking at anything Isles money line. If I had to play something side, it would be Leafs. And I might actually look toward betting Leafs at some point live in this game for this reason. You mentioned Sorokin's numbers. They've been absolutely brutal. And I think this is where we start to see the flaws of having Patrick Roy as coach. Because Patrick Roy is an old school guy and an old school goalie who, if he was going through the struggles that Sorokin's going through, he wants to continue playing. He wants to play his way out of trouble. Well, this will be the 10th straight start for Ilya Sorokin. He probably needs a rest, and he's not going to get it. So against a high-octane Maple Leaf team, we know they can put up goals, especially at home, like you mentioned, 14-4. I would maybe look at Leafs team total. So I'm seeing plus 110 plus 117 at 3.5. I might take a small sprinkle with that here, but like I said, I like draw more than anything else. Who's to say this game doesn't go 4-4? Past 60 minutes. So, but I think Sorokin playing him out of this struggles is not going to work. So the more he plays, the more I'd be looking to fade him in the Isles.
Now, Islanders have had the Leafs number, too. 4 straight head-to-head victories. Keep that in mind. We'll see if that continues, though, here tonight. Remember, those are all the Sheldon Keefe Leafs teams because they haven't played each other yet this year. We know Toronto has just been immune much more this year. They've been immune to the bad spot, the tricky spot, the flat spot, the lay an egg spot. You know what I mean? They just have not been doing that this year anywhere close to the amount of times that we've seen it in years past. What I like even more than the draw in this game is you keep riding Domi and Robertson and all these guys that are rolling right now for the lead. That third line's on fire, and McMahon for that matter as well. That line, you bet all 3, you got a chance to cash 1, maybe even 2, maybe even all 3, because all 3 of them scored last night against Buffalo. Now, I don't think they're going to score as many goals tonight as a team against the Islanders, but you just have to put that in your player prop, goal prop portfolio right now. That Bobby McMahon, Nick Robertson, Max Domi line has been that good for them here the last several games. So definitely something you want to maybe look at here once again with those 3 guys against the Islanders. All right, we've got Minnesota, Winnipeg next up. We got the Jets, a significant home favorite here in this game. Looking at them, minus 165 home favorites, total 5.5, pretty much across the board in this game. Obviously, for the Minnesota Wild, look, this is their first little, mini slump. It's not a full-blown, losing streak or, they're not reeling yet, but it's getting closer and closer to that. It's been definitely a bit of a first extended speed bump for them. We are going to see the touted goalie of the future in net here tonight for the Minnesota Wild, Jesper Wallstedt, going to get the start here for the Minnesota Wild tonight. And not a surprise with Gustafsson out and Fleury starting last night that we were likely going to see Wallstead here on the back-to-back. Hellebuck expected for Winnipeg. He's been playing really well the last several games. You got the Wild on the back-to-back. You've got the Winnipeg Jets in a rest advantage here going into this game. We'll see how this one plays out. But, like I said, don't love Winnipeg's form. I don't love the price, though, with Winnipeg enough to bet him. So this is going to be a stay-away game for me. What I will say is I'm interested to watch this kid because I know there was one game he started, he didn't look great. And then there was one game he started, he looked really, really good. So it's going to be interesting to see how Wallstead fares in between the pipes here. And sometimes when you get the young goalie in there, that is something that can rally the troops a little bit and rally the team. And we'll see if that gets one heck of a strong effort on the road here from this Minnesota Wild team, looking to bounce back from, like I said, their first little rough patch of a season that overall has been pretty good for them so far to this point. Alex, what do you think here, Minnesota, Winnipeg?
Yeah, this is a game, like I said, well, definitely we'll try and get to watch some of it. But I'm more than likely going to pass it for anything pregame. Like I said, Jesper Wallstedt, he's the goalie of the future. Somebody Bailey in the chat asking who is he. He's one of the highly touted prospects in the AHL. He's done pretty much all he can at that level, and really only because of the fact you're not going to trade Marc-Andre Fleury in his retirement year. It's the only reason why he's not the backup goalie and getting more games here with Minnesota. But they've been carrying him around at times, trying to get him spot starts, which I think is good. I think that's kind of, going to be something. And obviously, the Wild weren't expecting to be this good, right? I don't think anyone's expecting them to be at this point. And maybe there was going to be a move at some point. There was, that talks of Gustafsson being traded and Wallstedt getting these starts more regularly, being the backup. Now it's going to be kind of awkward. Like I said, you're going through a little bit of a slump, so now's a good time to throw him in. But at some point, when do you kind of settle on who your 1 and 2 goalies are? Because that's something the Wild are going to have to figure out. It's like that's not necessarily going to be on Fleury. Gustafsson's hurt. And like I said, we can't rely on Fleury to pick up the same kind of minutes he's done in previous games. So that's the biggest question for the Wild. I want to see how they're going to use Wallstedt and how he looks at it. This is a big test for him against a Jets team that's good, a Jets team that has owned the Wild. They've won 7 of the straight meetings. So this will be a big test for them to see if they can throw him in to key spots, and then he can alleviate Fleury later in the season, alleviate Gustafsson during this stretch while he's hurt.
It's going to be a great opportunity for him because from what I've seen, it's not a given Gustafsson's going to be back in a couple days.
Right.
We could be talking time out of the lineup. So this is going to be an opportunity, and you're not going to run Fleury out there at this stage of his career every single game, every single night. So this is a chance for him to build up a sample size here of starts and a body of work here at the NHL level to see what he's got. And it'll be interesting to see how he fares tonight and moving forward. All right, Pittsburgh, New Jersey. We've got the Devils minus 240, home favorites, 6.5 being the total here in this game. One thing about New Jersey off a loss in a game where they don't exactly, get it rolling offensively, they've been good at bouncing back and they've been good at scoring goals in these particular spots. So first thing that stands out here is I like New Jersey team total over 3.5 here. You get them in a bounce back spot after losing to Columbus. And really, did they lose to Columbus? Yes, they did. But they didn't lose as in they were horrible. They were awful. They got goalied by a guy that, quite honestly, has not done that very often in his NHL career. He was absolutely outstanding for the Columbus Blue Jackets in that game and was able to just carry the day and get them a victory over the New Jersey Devils. And like I said, it was probably the best I've seen Merzlikins play. No question about that in his career. But I like New Jersey here, bounce back spot. Pittsburgh, one thing about Pittsburgh is, a couple of wins. Give them credit. They've won 2 in a row against the Kings and the Predators, both games in overtime. But long win streaks, often haven't been there for the Penguins throughout the course of the season. And New Jersey, usually a team I prefer to back on the road than at home. But at home, they've started to play with a little bit more consistency, beating Seattle, beating LA, beating Chicago, 3 of the last 5 home wins that they've gotten. And like I said, it's just usually you're in a good spot taking New Jersey to go over their team total when they're coming off a game where they get held to usually a goal or less or 2 goals like they were against Columbus, obviously, the other night. So I like New Jersey team total primarily more than anything here. You could go with the over 2, over full game over, but I prefer a 6 with that. And if I find one, maybe I'll add that. But primarily what I like the most here is Devils team total over 3.5 minus 128. Alex, what do you think here? Penguins, Devils.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the well with that Devils team total as well. Like I said, I had it the other night, and they just, like I said, they got goalied. Like I said, it wasn't that bad of an effort, and on a different night, they certainly should have gotten over that number. So laying $1.25 at FanDuel, I'm going over the 3.5. And like I said, I will look for a live over in game. I don't think this is gonna be a game that just jumps out and all of a sudden we get goals early. We might be able to get a 6 or even a 5.5. If we wait a little bit. So waiting for the full game over in game, but that'll go with that Devils team total pregame.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so yeah, that's definitely what I'm interested in. Dawson Mercer, Stefan Nason. I mean, I hate to be a broken record, but certainly when it comes to goal props on the New Jersey Devils side of the equation, those are usually the two that I target just from a value standpoint. Obviously, we know that they get, someone to maybe consider right now because he is up to is Andre Palat, the veteran, believe it or not, for the New Jersey Devils, started to hit that score sheet and find the back of the net of late for the Devils. So make sure you maybe consider him for a goal prop as well tonight for the New Jersey Devils. Andre Palat, who has started to find his goal-scoring touch in recent games. All right, next up, probably one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now, the Ottawa Senators taking on the Vancouver Canucks. We've got Vancouver minus 130. Home favorites, 5.5 being the total here in this game. We're riding Ottawa. Let me just make sure because I don't want them if it's not Allmark. If it's Allmark, you sign me up for the Ottawa Senators once again here tonight. But we came in with a game plan, at least I did, prior to this road trip, that we're going to ride this Ottawa team on this road trip because they've got it circled. Players are talking about how this is such an important road trip and an important part of their schedule to try to make the playoffs, and they have responded playing outstanding team hockey. Defensively in their own end, they've been good. Their special teams has been better. They've been getting clutch performances from a lot of their best players, including Brady Tkachuk, who's been really outstanding. He's led like a captain should lead during this great run for the Ottawa Senators. Gets the overtime winner against Calgary the other night. Everything that I like about Ottawa, they're playing a great collective team game right now, 5 straight wins. There may not be a goalie in hockey that is in red-hot form or better form right now than Linus Ullmark. He's been absolutely sensational for the Ottawa Senators, and the numbers are just off the charts. Now, he hasn't been confirmed yet, and Ottawa does play in Edmonton, I believe, tomorrow night. Yes, they do. Yep. So that's I have not moved on Ottawa yet. I haven't, because this is not a bet for me if it's Forsberg. I don't trust Forsberg nearly as much. But if it is Allmark tonight, we know Forsberg's going to get one of the games, either tonight or tomorrow night. Question is going to be which one. But I would say, because I think Edmonton might be the tougher game right now, because Vancouver's been kind of up and down. Vancouver's not been great at home, as we've talked about. Start him tonight. Get this 2 points, and then you can go to Forsberg tomorrow night in the tough spot against an Edmonton team playing very well right now. That's what I would do, but I'm not Travis Green. So it's up to him at the end of the day. But the bottom line is, if Allmark's a go with his 7-game win streak, with the incredible numbers, he's got like a .950 save percentage. Like I said, he's won 7 straight starts. And during this run of these 7 straight wins for Allmark and net, he has given up a grand total of 7 goals in those 7 games. So that's 1 goal per game on average. So it tells you how good he has been during this run. If it's Allmark, absolutely will be on Ottawa once again, plus 110. But I am waiting for that confirmation. Alex, what do you think here? Senators, Canucks?
Yeah, I'd have to wait for that confirmation as well. But looking at Ottawa, like I said, at a plus price here, with how Allmark's playing, that would be a steal. And I even looking at those parlays at MGM, Senators to win at over 4.5 goals, plus 160. Like you said, Allmark's been in good enough form where he's only allowed 7 goals in that span. So you 5.5, 6.5. You don't want to rush with that. It's not like Ottawa's bearing 5-6 goals a night on their own. 4.5 would be a little bit more comfortable. So that's probably the way I'll approach it. And once we get confirmation, I'll take a little bit of just Ottawa by itself on the money line, but I'll add a little bit of that plus 160 with the Ottawa tied to the over 4.5.
No doubt. I didn't get involved with the Shane Pinto goal prop the other night. I stayed off it, and good thing he didn't score against Calgary. But I think tonight maybe come back to it against Vancouver. Again, 3 goals for him in the last 4 games. Talked about how couldn't buy a goal for the longest time, and now all of a sudden, here he is lighting it up for the Ottawa Senators. Kind of like what Max Domi's been. Max Domi for Toronto couldn't buy a goal, and now all of a sudden he's scoring in multiple games in a row. So. Definitely, I'd be maybe looking toward Mr. Pinto again for the Ottawa Senators here to be able to find the back of the net tonight in this one. Again, definitely interested in Ottawa, but waiting to see the goalie confirmation here. All right, final game of this massive Saturday slate, the final Saturday NHL card before Christmas. We've got Vegas, the Golden Knights hosting Seattle. Vegas minus 195 home favorites. The total in this game at 6, 5.5, 6, depending on where you shop in this game. When you look at this matchup here against the Golden Knights, Seattle greatly disappointed me the other night against Chicago. Didn't love what I saw. I thought that was a spot for them to really get, back on track, start the road trip strong like they did, when they started the road trip before that against the Carolina Hurricanes. Remember, they were struggling. They lost a couple in a row. They beat Carolina to start that road trip. Looked like the similar spot for them against Chicago, but they lose 3-1. That's now 3 losses in a row. The offense has just gone away again. You throw out the 5-1 win they had against the Boston Bruins, and in their last 4 losses, they have scored 1 goal or less. So once again, the offense is MIA right now. They, of course, just recently traded for Capo Caco, hoping that would fix the that would fix the Seattle Kraken a little bit offensively, or at least help them a little bit. We'll see if it does. Vegas is coming off a 3-1 home win against Vancouver, returning home from a 3-game road trip. As far as head-to-head is concerned, in Vegas, I believe Vegas has won all but one previous matchup against Seattle here at T-Mobile Arena since the Kraken entered the league. This is not going to be a game that I probably get involved with. I'm concerned about what I'm seeing right now from Seattle. Even though it's a nice price with them, don't like it. Don't like their form enough right now to be able to trust them, especially if they have to go up against Adin Hill. We've talked about this with Adin Hill. He is starting to look more and more like that 2023 run to the Stanley Cup form of late. He has been really solid of late, and he's projected to be in net here tonight for the Vegas Golden Knights, and that will make things for a struggling offensive team, probably like Seattle, probably even more difficult. And it is worth noting here, Nick Waugh, Barbashev, couple injuries here for Vegas, but both of those guys look to be game time decisions here for this one. Alex, what do you think here? Final game, Seattle, Vegas.
Yeah, this is going to be a pass for me on side or total. There is a player prop that I like. One of 2 that I'll mention a little bit later, the bargain bin.
All right, there we go. We do have a bargain bin special from this game coming up for Alex. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And again, we're closing in on Christmas. I just want to remind everyone of the programming schedule. Okay, we're going to be on tomorrow at noon Eastern, and Alex will join me. Alex will be off until Saturday after tomorrow's show, but he will be with me tomorrow at noon Eastern. I'll be doing a solo show on Monday at noon Eastern with that huge NHL card. And remember, I only have 1 hour because I got the college football show with Connor Mack at 1 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be a blistering pace, breakneck pace on Monday, getting through that entire card with yours truly at noon Eastern. So that'll be Monday's show. That's our final show before the Christmas break. Obviously, Christmas Eve on Tuesday, Christmas Day on Wednesday, and Thursday, no shows because there's no NHL action. NHL returns from the break on Friday. And that is when the show will return, Friday. And we will do the Friday show at noon Eastern, I believe, because I think Friday there are some afternoon games. If I'm actually, I've double checked that. Maybe I've got that wrong, but I will check to see if there's afternoon games on Friday, December the 27th here. I thought there were a couple. No, there's not. There's not. They're all at night. So it will be 2 p.m. Eastern then on Friday when we return from the Christmas break. Alex will be back next Saturday. And then, of course, we've got New Year's Day. There'll be no show as well. Wednesday, January 1st. There's only one NHL game on New Year's Day, January 1st, with the Kings and the Devils. We'll talk about that at the end of the Tuesday show, December 31st, New Year's Eve. So That way we'll be off Wednesday, January 1st, and then we'll be back Thursday, January 2nd. So there you go. There's your holiday programming announcements here for the Ice Guys. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. Make sure you sign up. Again, we've got goalie charts, totals charts. The Phil Sykes interview is up there on the Patreon page as well. We've got exclusive live betcasts coming your way, of course, in the new year, starting in January. And again, our daily betting card posted each and every day, sides, totals, and player props on the Patreon page. So make sure you sign up. Just $10. We're at 196. Last I checked with Patreon members. We are getting so close to 200, the mighty milestone. So hopefully you guys can help us get there. We're almost at 200 Patreon members. Like I said, $10 per month for some of those bets that are hitting and bargain bins that are hitting on the betting cards. It pays for several months worth of subscriptions hitting some of those bets. So make sure you check it out. $10 per month. And again, your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month.
Yeah, four people away. That's what we want for Christmas. We want to get to 200 paid Patreon subscribers for sure. But also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Now listen, if you've waited at this point, you're not getting it under the tree for Christmas. But what's important is that you have some Ice Guys merch to go into the year 2025 with, and you can do that right now. Shop at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. We've got everything in stock: caps, hoodies, t-shirts, everything you need right now. So check that out. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, good stuff indeed. And I think when you look at this here too with the Patreon page, and Robert is one of the people that have just signed up recently as well. One of the things too is, and he's been commenting a lot. I do want to try to get more interaction with the Patreon page, but again, it's been so friggin' busy, guys. It's just there's only so many hours in the day. It's been for 2 months. You got all the sports going at once. In the new year, when things slow down, it'll just be NBA, college basketball, NHL. Football will be winding down. We'll definitely get to comment more and interact more on the Patreon page and do even more stuff with that. We definitely plan on it in the new year. And part of that, of course, will be the Patreon exclusive live betcasts, which we are excited about. All right, good stuff. It is almost that time for Bargain Bin Special of the Night and Best Bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Manscaped, Power Play Sportsbook, Raise Your Game, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
All right, shout out to all our great Ice Guys sponsors, including Boston Hemp Inc. 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code IceGuys at bostonhempinc.com. All right, Bargain Bin Special of the night. And I appreciate you guys having faith in me, because I know in October it was a rough start with the Bargain Bin Special for me especially. It was a dry run, if you will, at the beginning of the year. But then we got in November. We started to hit a few. And here in December, it's been a great month for me with the Bargain Bin Special. And it's been an even better week here. This week's been great. I think we've hit 3 or 4 Bargain Bin Specials now this week. And we will try to add to it here today with the Bargain Bin Special of the night. But Alex, we'll start with you, because I know you got 2 Bargain Bin Specials for this Saturday.
Yeah, you've been carrying the weight lately, so I'm hoping to try and chip in with a couple of them. First one I like, and you mentioned this line, and you've been riding this line since the hottest line in hockey right now, third line with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to go with Bobby McMahon, anytime goal. You get him plus 380, plus 390. I think 380 is available at FanDuel. I see 390 at MGM. So that'd be the first one that I'm looking for at the Toronto game, but also looking, as I mentioned, that Vegas game against Seattle late tonight. Alexander Holtz moving up to the second line. You can get him at plus 500 a couple of spots, including DraftKings. I think they have 6-1 on him. So Alexander Holtz, anytime goal in that late game for Vegas, and Bobby McMahon for that early evening game, plus 380 for Toronto. Those are my two bargain bin specials for Saturday.
All right, there you go. Bobby McMahon for Toronto and Alexander Holtz as far as bargain bin specials of the night here for Alex with this Saturday card. Lots to choose from, that's for sure, with all the games on tap. No question about that. And, Alex Holtz, I think, has got the chance to get going. And certainly tonight for Vegas, he's hopefully going to get, it looks like he's going to get more of an opportunity for sure in that lineup. As far as my bargain bin special for tonight, I feel like I'm compelled to just stick with this red hot third line of the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. And one of the three guys, I've been on Robertson, I've been on Domi. I'm going to make Max Domi a second straight bargain bin tonight, honestly. I feel like now I got to ride it, and especially if he's going to continue to be offered at the bargain bin special prices. And I'm seeing plus 550 at PointsBet, plus 500 at BetMGM, plus 480 at FanDuel, plus 450 at Bet365. I would love to be, give you a little variety. Variety is the spice of life, but this is legitimately my favorite look for bargain bin special tonight. Max Domi has now scored in 3 straight games. We've talked about this. Plus 550 is what we're seeing right now at PointsBet for this prop. You ride the red hot run that is Max Domi right now, looking for his 4th straight game with a goal. So Max Domi, Toronto, plus 550. Cashed with him last night. See if we can do it again tonight at plus 550 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you like tonight for best bet?
You know what? We're going to go with the afternoon game, and we're going to go with the Blackhawks. Plus 150. That's a very high price. Except we can't trust Calgary in this spot. It's a team that's lost 4 of their last 5 games at home. The Hawks have dominated the Flames, winning 5 of the last 7 meetings overall. I think what we've seen, this momentum that we've seen from the Hawks that's been at home, I think it travels on the road today, and we get that afternoon win. So give me the Blackhawks, plus 150. That's my Saturday best bet.
All right, there we go. Chicago Blackhawks at the underdog price. I like it. No question. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. You can get upwards of plus 150, 55 now with the Chicago Blackhawks in that game. So Chicago as an underdog for Alex with his best bet. My best bet, I like the bounce back angle here for the New Jersey Devils, and I certainly like the price. Minus 125 for the New Jersey Devils team total over 3.5. That is what I'm going to roll with for best bet. One of these deals where, how many times have I said this on the show? The goals don't go in, and they should have in the previous game with the over 40 shots against Merzlikins and Columbus. Watch them flood in the next game. Oftentimes the floodgates open the next game when you probably should have had 4 or 5 the previous game. And if you look at the Devils this year, they've been very good after a low-scoring output, bouncing back, winning, and also scoring goals in bunches the very next game. I think we see that from them here tonight against Pittsburgh. So we'll go with the New Jersey Devils team total over 3.5, minus 125. That is going to be my best bet here for this Saturday NHL card. Shout out to everyone in the chat, and thanks for joining us, especially Saturday right before Christmas. It's not easy.
Yes.
You got family commitments, stuff to do, shopping.
Football.
Sometimes you're working overtime, because you're going to be off during the holidays, all that, and still a great turnout. 356 people watching live. We appreciate it very much. Hit the like button on the way out. And thank you, as always, for your support of the Ice Guys. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Tuesday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games, and good luck. And we will be back with you. And Alex will be back tomorrow, and it'll be his last show until next Saturday. But he will be with me tomorrow, Sunday, noon Eastern, tomorrow, for another edition of the Ice Guys.